We're bringing the family to Europe without you and your kids. You'd only slow us down, Dad said. You know, there are moments in life when the people you love most, the ones who raised you, can deliver a gut punch so brutal, it changes everything. For me, it was watching my parents hand out tickets to a dream vacation to everyone but my own children. They thought they were just excluding my family. What they didn't, I was secretly funding the whole thing. And what did I did next? Let's just say their European adventure quickly turned into an international meltdown. It all started on a Sunday night, just as spring was trying to break through the Detroit chill. My parents had pulled out all the stops, the good china, candles flickering in the dining room like it was some kind of sacred announcement. My sister Paige was already filming on her phone, always capturing life for her audience. My brother Ron had that usual smirk, like he always knew the punchline before it was delivered. Then my dad tapped his glass. "We're taking the family to Europe," he announced, his voice booming with false generosity. It was like he was bestowing the gift of oxygen upon us all. Immediately, the kids at the table started buzzing. My oldest, Noah, who's usually so reserved, sat up a little straighter. My daughter, Leia, squeezed my wife Melissa's hand under the table, already dreaming. And then, Dad pointed his fork at me, like I was a loose thread he just couldn't wait to snip. "Not you and your kids, Derek," he added, his voice dripping with casual dismissal. "You'll just slow us down." My son's eyes, just 12 years old, went wide. Little Ben, only 4, didn't even know what Europe was, but he knew that everyone else was excited. And suddenly our side of the table just went quiet. Paige let out a sharp, practice laugh, the kind that sounds bright and empty like a phone ringtone. "Dad, don't say it like that," she chirped, but she didn't correct him. She didn't argue. She certainly didn't include us. She just enjoyed the moment, angling her phone to catch the fallout. My mom, bless her heart, slid a stack of navy blue envelopes down the table. "Passport covers," she announced, her smile fixed too tightly. "I found them online." She handed one to Paige's kids, one to Ron's kids, then one to my parents themselves, like they were part of the grandkid lineup. Everyone got a neat little bundle. A printed itinerary, a list of cities, a group photo plan, even matching luggage tags with our last names stamped in gold. My kids? Nothing. Leia's lips parted, just slightly, like she was about to ask if hers was coming next. Noah tried to pretend he didn't care, but his jaw tightened in that familiar way, the exact way mine did when I was 14 and my dad would conveniently forget to pick me up from school. And Ben, he leaned into me, his small voice a whisper. "Daddy, did we do something bad?" My throat went impossibly tight. My hand started to shake, just a little, under the table. It wasn't rage yet, not a flash of fury. It was that old, suffocating feeling of being the helper, the wallet, the extra adult who was useful right up until we wanted a seat at the actual table. Melissa's fingers found my knee. One small squeeze. Her silent way of saying, "Don't blow up. Not here. Not in front of them." Dad kept talking, oblivious, like we weren't even people. "We need an easy pace," he declared. "Early mornings, walking tours, nice dinners, museums, not kid chaos." He actually glanced at Ben, making a face like my 4-year-old was an inconvenience, not his own grandson. Ron, ever the loyal lieutenant, took a sip of wine and chimed in, "Yeah, Derek, it's not personal. It's just, you know how your kids are. You know how your kids are." My kids. The kids who were quiet, polite, who asked before touching, who folded their napkins, who brought my mom little drawings even when she barely looked at them. Those kids. My kids had become the family's code for, "Your side doesn't count." I watched my mother nod along, shiny with agreement, like this was all perfectly reasonable. I watched Paige angle her phone, not to get a good shot of envelopes, but to catch the exact moment my children realized they'd been cut out. And that's when a cold, stark truth hit me. They weren't announcing a vacation. They were announcing a boundary they thought they were allowed to set. They wanted me to keep paying, keep showing up, keep smiling. They wanted my money attached to my name, but not my children attached to their family story. While my children stood metaphorically outside the glass, I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay level. "Wow," I said softly. "Okay." Dad looked relieved. He probably expected me to whine or beg, and he was just glad I wasn't going to make a scene. "See," he said, a smug little smile playing on his lips. "You understand." I nodded once, slow. Melissa's eyes were on me now, searching my face. She knew that tone. She knew I was already doing math in my head. Noah stared down at his plate. Leia's eyes had started to shine, fighting back tears. Ben kept looking back and forth between the envelopes and my hands, like he was waiting for me to fix it. My dad smiled, a triumphant, self-satisfied smile like he'd won. And that was the moment I finally stopped protecting them from consequences. My name is Derek. I was 42 then. We lived in Detroit in a brick house on a quiet street that still had kids riding bikes, and neighbors who actually brought your trash bin back to the curb. I owned a few building material stores. Not glamorous, mind you, lumber, drywall, tile roofing. The boring stuff that keeps other people's dreams standing upright. I worked hard. I paid my taxes. I had employees who counted on me. And I had a wife, Melissa, who stretched every dollar like it mattered, even when we had more than we used to. And I had 4 kids. Noah, 12, the serious one, the kid who'd rather read instructions than wing it. Leia, 10, soft-spoken, always noticing who got left out. Mason, 7, middle child energy, but in a gentle way. He tried to smooth everything over. And Ben, 4, who still believed family meant safety by default. My parents lived in the suburbs outside the city. Big house, nice yard, 2 cars, always newer than mine. And the kind of smile they wore in public that made people think they were generous. They were generous, all right. With my money. It started small like it always does. A temporary loan when Dad's pension paperwork got delayed. A little help when Mom wanted to redo the kitchen because she was tired of looking at the same old cabinets. A quick favor paying for Ron's car repair because he'd had bad luck. Then my sister, Paige, got used to me covering things. Hotel rooms at family weddings, birthday parties, plane tickets when Dad decided everyone had to be together. I didn't mind at first. I told myself it was family. I told myself I was lucky. I told myself if I can help I should. And I was the one who could help. My parents knew it. They'd ask with that soft, slightly uncomfortable voice, the one that pretended it was a burden to request anything. "Derek, honey, could you just put it on your card and we'll pay you back?" They almost never paid me back. Or they'd pay me back by taking the money out of the next thing I was already covering. It was like being reimbursed with my own cash. When my store started doing well, it got worse. They stopped asking like it was a favor and started asking like it was my role. I paid for their anniversary trip to Napa. I paid for Ron's family emergency when his credit card got maxed out. I paid for Paige's once-in-a-lifetime cruise because she needed memories with the kids. At one point, I actually did the math. In a moment of tired honesty, I calculated it. It was about $40,000 a year. Every year. Not one big check, mind you. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. 5,000 for flights. 800 for extra excursions. Random charges on the card my mom had on file. Ubers, fancy restaurants, souvenirs. My credit card had morphed into a family utility. And somehow, even after all that, my kids were still treated like optional guests. Small slights I swallowed. My parents hosting Grandkids Day and forgetting to tell us until the pictures hit Facebook. My mom buying matching pajamas for Paige and Ron's kids, then saying, "Oh, I didn't know your kids' sizes." My dad bragging about Ron's son's baseball trophy and calling Noah's science award cute. My sister Paige saying, "Your kids are kind of shy, huh?" Like it was a flaw, a defect. Every single time, I told myself it wasn't worth a fight. Every single time, Melissa looked at me like she wanted to scream, but she didn't because she was trying to respect my family ties. I kept thinking they'd come around. I kept thinking, if we keep showing up, if we keep being generous, they'll start seeing my kids as part of the main family. But that dinner, that envelope lineup, that was them saying out loud what they'd been doing quietly for years. On the drive home that night, the car was silent in a way that felt heavy, suffocating. Noah sat in the back with his hoodie pulled up, staring out the window like he wanted to disappear. Leia kept blinking fast, refusing to let the tears fall. She's always been like that. Like crying is something you do in private, so you don't inconvenience anyone. Mason, the little peacemaker, tried to fix it. Maybe it's just like a grown-up trip, he said, too loudly, too desperately. Ben just asked again, his little voice breaking my heart. Daddy, why don't they want us? Melissa held my hand at a red light. Quietly, her voice a low thrum against the car's silence, she said, You saw their faces, Derek. They weren't confused. They were proud. I swallowed hard. I know. She didn't lecture me. She didn't say, I told you so. She just said the thing that landed like a hammer, solid and final. I will not let our kids grow up thinking love is something you earn by paying. That night, after the kids were finally asleep, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table. Melissa poured 2 cups of tea, not wine. Tea, like we were about to do something steady, deliberate and adult. I pulled up my credit card account. There it was. My parents were authorized users. 2 cards, one in Dad's name, one in Mom's. I scrolled through the recent charges and felt my stomach flip. New luggage set, expedited passport photos, travel insurance. They weren't just planning Europe. They'd already started spending like the trip was guaranteed. And the wildest part? They were doing it on my card. I looked at Melissa. They didn't even ask. Melissa's mouth tightened. They never do. I sat there for a long minute. Then I said very quietly, I'm done. I didn't say it like a threat. I didn't say it like some dramatic movie line. I said it like someone stating a simple, undeniable fact. Melissa nodded once. Okay, what's the boundary? 1 clean move. 1 decision. Not 10 different revenge plans. Not some messy family war. Just 1 financial boundary that said, I'm not your backup bank. I clicked into the authorized user settings. My finger hovered. I could already hear my mom's voice in my head. You're punishing us. You're making it about money. Family helps family. But then my kids' faces flashed behind my eyes. Ben whispering, Did we do something bad? Leia staring at empty hands while other kids got envelopes. Noah's shoulders folding inward, like he was learning a lesson I never wanted him to learn. I clicked, Remove Authorized User. The screen asked me to confirm. I confirmed. Then I did it again for the second card. Both removed. Then I called the bank and spoke to a calm woman named Denise, who sounded like she'd heard every version of family drama under the sun. I need to cancel 2 authorized user cards immediately, I told her. No problem, she said. Are the cards in your possession? No, I said. They're with the authorized users. I can shut them off now, she said. They'll decline starting immediately. My hand shook, just slightly as I said, Do it. Denise didn't react. She just did her job. Done, she said. You'll receive confirmation in your email. My phone buzzed a second later. Authorized users removed. Cards deactivated. I stared at the confirmation like it was a line in the sand. Melissa exhaled slowly. Okay. I nodded. Okay. Then I opened a different tab. Because I wasn't just taking something away. I was taking my kids somewhere they didn't have to beg to be included. Months earlier, Melissa and I had been talking about travel. We'd been saving quietly. Not for my parents' trips. For ours. I had points stacked up from business purchases for the stores, lumber orders, vendor payments, all that boring stuff that secretly adds up to airline miles. We'd never use them for anything big because there was always some family emergency, some can you help, some underlying guilt. I looked at Melissa. Bali. She blinked. Bali. I nodded. Not Europe. Not their trip. Ours. She stared at me like she was checking if I was serious. I opened the flight search. I found seats. Not fancy, just workable. Detroit to the West Coast, then onward. I booked it. For me. For Melissa. For all 4 kids. When the confirmation email hit, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Relief. Not the kind that comes from winning. The kind that comes from choosing your own life. 2 days later, my mom called. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered, because I wanted to hear what story they were telling themselves. Hi, Mom. Oh, good, she said, breathless. We need you to check something with your card. It's doing that weird thing again. I leaned back in my chair. What weird thing? It's declining, she practically wailed. We're trying to finish some travel stuff, and it's embarrassing, Derek. I could picture her face, the tight smile, the annoyance disguised as concern. I removed the cards, I said, my voice calm, almost unnervingly so. I removed you as authorized users. You don't have access anymore. Silence. Then her voice went sharp like a knife. You what? I removed you as authorized users, I repeated, maintaining the calm. You don't have access anymore. She laughed once, a short, brittle sound, like I'd made a joke that wasn't funny. Derek, don't do this, she said. Not now. The trip is already planned. I kept my voice even. You planned it without us. That's not the point, she snapped. And there it was. The honesty. The raw, self-centered truth. I breathed in slowly. It is the point, I said. You don't get to exclude my kids and still spend my money. Her voice instantly turned sugary, dripping with manipulation. Honey, you're being emotional. Your father didn't mean it like that. Yes, he did, I said, cutting her off. He said it out loud. She tried another angle. We're family. I almost laughed. Almost. I am family, I said. So are my kids. If we slow you down, then I won't fund your sprint. She went quiet again. Then she said, low and furious, so you're punishing us. I looked at the wall clock, still ticking. Ordinary, like this was just another Tuesday. I'm setting a boundary, I said. You're off my accounts. Her voice rose. Derek, I'm not your backup bank, I said, and my tone stayed calm because I absolutely, unequivocally meant it. Don't call me about money again. And I hung up. Melissa looked up from the counter where she was packing school lunches, like the world wasn't shifting under our feet. What did she say? She asked. I shrugged. Same script. Melissa nodded. Okay. No cheering. No victory dance. Just quiet, steady teamwork. The day of their flight, I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't post anything petty. We had our own plans. We packed at 5 a.m. The kids were half asleep, dragging their little suitcases through the hallway. Noah yawned and asked, Where are we going again? I smiled. Somewhere warm. Leia hugged her travel pillow like it held a secret. Mason whispered, Are Grandma and Grandpa coming? No, I said gently. This is our trip. Ben perked up. Just us. Just us, Melissa said, kissing his forehead. At the airport, I felt something strange. Peace. We got through security. We found our gate. The kids stared at planes through the big windows, wide-eyed and hopeful, just like they always did. I thought that would be the whole story. Then my phone rang. Mom. I stared at it. Melissa raised an eyebrow. Don't. I didn't answer. It rang again. Then my dad. Then Mom again. Then Paige. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. I still didn't answer. Because boundaries don't work if you negotiate them at the first tantrum. We boarded our first flight. I buckled Ben in, handed him his snacks, and tried to focus on my kids' faces instead of the buzzing in my pocket. When we landed for our connection, my phone exploded the second it hit service. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. One voicemail from my mom came through automatically, and I made the mistake of playing it. Her voice was screaming, absolutely screaming. over a cacophony of airport noise. Derek, what did you do? We're at the international terminal and nothing is working. Nothing. Your father's card won't go through. My card won't go through. They're saying we have to pay for it. Then the message cut off, probably because she got interrupted by an agent, or she hit the button wrong. Melissa watched my face. You okay? She asked quietly. I nodded. Yeah. The difference? I wasn't shaking anymore. They were finally experiencing what it felt like to have plans built on someone else's wallet, and then suddenly, inexplicably lose access. We walked to our next gate. My phone buzzed again. A text from Paige. What are you doing? We're standing here like idiots. Fix it. I stared at it for a second. Then I typed back one sentence. Have fun. And I turned my phone to airplane mode. Melissa exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 10 years. Noah watched me carefully. Is Grandma mad? I crouched down, so I was eye level with him. Grandma is mad because she's used to me paying, I said. And I'm done paying for people who treat you like you don't matter. Noah swallowed. Okay. Leia's eyes filled, but this time she didn't look ashamed. She looked relieved. Mason leaned into Melissa's side. Ben asked, Are we still going somewhere warm? Melissa smiled softly. We sure are. We boarded the next flight. And while my parents were melting down in an international terminal, my kids were settling in with headphones and cartoons, safe in the quiet bubble of a plane that was taking them toward a life where love wasn't a transaction. The fallout didn't wait for us to land. When we arrived at our first stop, I turned my phone back on briefly, just to check if there was some emergency that actually mattered. There were 37 missed calls. Texts from Mom ranged from pure rage to manipulative guilt to fake concern. You're humiliating us. We raised you. Your father is upset. Do you want your kids to see you destroy family? Then a message that made my stomach go flat. Your dad's blood pressure is high. If something happens, it's on you. There it was. The classic move. If we suffer, it's your fault. Paige sent. We already told the kids they were going. Now they're crying. Thanks a lot. Ron sent. Bro, this is dramatic. Just turn it back on and talk about it after. No one said, we're sorry for what Dad said. No one said, we shouldn't have excluded your kids. No one said we were wrong. It was all about their inconvenience, their embarrassment, their plans. I looked at Melissa. I'm blocking them for the trip. Melissa nodded. Do it. So I did. I blocked my mom, my dad, Paige, Ron, the group chat, the cousins who always chimed in only when money was involved. Click, 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 clean, quiet, done. Then I looked at my kids again, and it felt like closing a door on a drafty room I'd been freezing in my whole life. Bali was bright. It smelled like salt and flowers and sunscreen, and something sweet frying in a pan. The first morning, Ben woke up and ran to the balcony like he'd discovered a new planet. Daddy, he yelled, the water is right there. Noah stood beside him, sleepy but smiling. Leia whispered, It's so pretty, like she didn't quite trust pretty things to last. Mason asked, Can we swim today? Melissa answered, We're going to swim every day. We did simple things. We ate breakfast together without anyone grading our table manners like it was a performance. We walked through markets where nobody knew our family history or our assigned roles. We bought cheap little souvenirs and didn't feel a shred of guilt about it. One evening, we sat on the beach while the sky turned incredible shades of orange and pink. Ben built a lopsided sandcastle. Noah helped him, patient and steady. Leia collected shells and lined them up like a tiny museum. Mason tried to make her laugh by putting one on his ear and pretending it was a phone. Melissa leaned her head on my shoulder. You did the right thing, she said quietly. I didn't say, finally. I didn't say I know. I just watched my kids. Because the proof was right there. in the way their shoulders looked lighter. When we got home, the consequences showed up just like they always do. Not apologies, demands. My mom left voicemails from unknown numbers after I blocked her. "You can't do this to us," she cried in one. "We're your parents." In another, she actually sobbed. "Not about my kids, mind you. About money. Your father had to borrow from Ron. Do you know how humiliating that is?" That line almost made me laugh out loud. Humiliating. Like being 12 years old and feeling like your own grandfather doesn't want you in the room. Like being 10 and watching everyone get an envelope except you. Dad finally sent an email because he couldn't call. The subject line was, "We need to talk like adults." He wrote a whole paragraph about respect, responsibility, and family obligations. Not one sentence about my children. Then he wrote, "You embarrassed your mother. You embarrassed me. That's not how family behaves." I read it twice. Then I replied with one sentence. "I won't fund a family my kids aren't part of." And that was it. No arguing. No explaining. No long speeches. Because people like my parents don't read explanations. They read consequences. 2 weeks later, my parents showed up at my house. They didn't call first. They never called first when they wanted control. I opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind me so my kids wouldn't have to see their faces if things got ugly. My mom started crying immediately. Real tears, but familiar. My dad stood there, stiff and self-righteous, like he was the injured party. "We didn't raise you to be cruel, Derek," Mom said, her voice trembling. I kept my voice calm. "You didn't raise me to let my kids be treated like they don't matter." Dad's jaw tightened. "You made a scene." "I didn't make a scene," I said. "You made an announcement. I made a decision." Mom wiped her face and tried to step closer. "Derek, honey, you're overreacting. Your father just meant," he meant what he said. I cut in gently, firmly. "And you agreed. You handed out envelopes to everyone, but my kids." Dad's eyes flashed. It was a travel pace issue. I nodded like I understood, like this was a reasonable excuse. "Then travel at your pace. With your money." Mom's face twisted in disgust. "So that's it? You're cutting us off." I didn't say it angrily. I said it clearly. "Yes," I said. "You're off my accounts permanently." Dad's voice went low, laced with venom. "After everything we've done for you." I almost asked him to list it. I almost asked him to name one thing they'd done that didn't come with strings. But I didn't. Because I wasn't there to debate. I was there to hold a line. "I'm not your backup bank," I repeated. "And my kids are not optional family." Mom stared at me like she couldn't believe I was saying no without shaking. Dad looked past me at the front windows like he hoped to see the kids inside, like maybe he could wave and soften me up. But I didn't move. Melissa opened the curtain just a crack, not to spy but to make sure I was okay. My mom saw her and snapped, "This is her doing." I didn't even flinch. "This is me protecting my kids," I said. "You can call it whatever helps you sleep." Dad's voice hardened. "So what now?" I pointed to the driveway. "Simple. Now you go home," I said. "If you ever want a relationship with us, you start by apologizing to my kids for what you did. Not to me. To them." Mom gasped, like I'd asked her to donate a kidney. Dad scoffed, like the idea was utterly beneath him. And that told me everything. They turned and walked back to their car. No apology. No accountability. Just indignation. As they pulled away, Mom rolled down the window and yelled, "You'll regret this!" I didn't answer. I went back inside. That night, Noah came into the kitchen while I was washing dishes. He hesitated in the doorway, like he didn't want to make things heavier than they already were. "Dad," he said. I turned off the water. "Yeah, bud." He swallowed. "Are we in trouble with Grandma and Grandpa?" I walked over and put my hand on his shoulder. "No," I said. "You're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong." Leia appeared behind him, quiet as a shadow. "Then why don't they like us?" she asked, barely above a whisper. That question hit me harder than my mom's screaming ever could. I crouched down, both kids in front of me. Some adults are missing parts, I said carefully. It's not about you, it's about them. Leia's eyes filled. Noah's voice went tight. But you were paying for them. I nodded. I was. And that's part of why they acted like they could say whatever they wanted. They thought I'd keep paying no matter what. Leia's voice shook. But you didn't. No, I said. Because you matter more than their trip. Noah blinked fast, like he was trying not to cry. Then he nodded once, like a kid accepting a hard truth. Okay, he whispered. And I knew the boundary wasn't just about money. It was about teaching my kids what love is supposed to look like. A month later, we hosted our own family dinner. Nothing dramatic. Just our table. Our food. Our normal. Melissa cooked, and the kids helped. Ben set the forks crooked, and Mason fixed them without teasing. Noah made a playlist and pretended he didn't care, but kept watching our faces for reactions. Leia placed a tiny vase of grocery store flowers in the center, like she was building something safe. We invited people who actually showed up for us. Melissa's sister came, and my cousin Tasha brought her boys, the ones who always included my kids. Then Aunt Diane, my dad's older sister, surprised us with a dessert box. I heard what happened, she said, pulling me aside. I'm proud of you, Derek. She crouched down to Ben and told him he deserved the ocean he'd seen. We ate. We laughed. We talked about school projects instead of Europe. After dessert, Leia showed Aunt Diane a drawing. 6 stick figures holding hands by a beach labeled Dad, Mom, Noah, Leia, Mason, Ben. Just us. For the first time, I felt closure. Before everyone left, I set 2 extra chairs against the wall. Those were for my parents, I thought. I left space. They chose not to fill it. Noah saw them and didn't look hurt. He looked sure.